In the fight against drugs, law enforcement plays a big role, keeping the drugs off the streets and arresting those who commit crimes to feed drug habits. Now, as Devon Fasbinder found, some are taking a different approach in hopes of starting to fix what they call a societal problem.
Throughout the past several months, I've spoken with many different people about drugs and the effects they have on our society. It seems it's always a cycle. Someone gets addicted to drugs. They often begin to commit crimes like theft to pay for their addiction. And that means they end up in jail or prison. And as one detective tells me, that doesn't solve anything.
It's a place most drug addicts don't want to find themselves, a police station. But it was exactly where two teens with a heavy addiction needed to be.
I just felt compelled. There was something about these two kids.
Mays Police Detective Jeff Piper decided to do something different, hold an intervention for them instead of holding them in jail. It was the answer one mother was searching for.
Detective Piper really, he went above and beyond, I think, to care about people that, were making bad choices.
It was very emotional. It was an experience that I often tell people, often people have different reasons to pursue certain career paths. This is why I became a police officer. Not to just lock up bad guys, but to actually touch people's lives and make a difference where I can.
Here, he could, and he did. He invited both teens' families, sat them in separate rooms, and showed them pictures of their lives. He brought in former addicts and showed them what options they had.
They needed an opportunity to present itself.
It worked.
I just never would have thought somebody would care that much about someone's well-being, that they would take that much time and put that much effort into really helping my child and her significant other to get their life straightened out.
Now, Detective Piper says he hopes others start taking a new look at drug addicts and how we can begin to fix the problem.
Part of the starting point is us doing this conversation right here, getting the word out, because I think a lot of people are just not educated to this. It's easy to say, oh, they're just a drug addict. They need to fix their own problems. It's a family problem. Just lock them up in jail. That's not the answer.
He hopes others will join him in trying to find the answer so that fewer drug addicts leave his station headed for jail and more leave headed for help.
During this intervention, Detective Piper and these teens faced a huge roadblock, one that threatened their ability to get help. Tonight at 10, my investigation reveals there's a problem with getting adequate treatment in Kansas that may not be anyone's fault.
Drug addicts in their darkest hours are unable to find the help they need. FactFinder 12 investigator Devon Fasbinder found it's because of holes in the system in Kansas.
In Kansas, we have ways for drug addicts to get help. Treatment centers, methadone clinics, and support groups are all available. But I found in my investigation they don't always work together well. And it's not one person or organization's fault.
We used to play a lot of games on the N64, especially.
Austin Evans calls his sister a good girl. At least he says she used to be.
When I started noticing the change was when I started noticing my consoles gone.
Back in mid-July, I had an opportunity for a young man to come up to our station to report that his sister had been taking property from him and pawning it at various pawn shops.
Austin had enough with his sister and her boyfriend.
Both admitted that they had been using heroin on a fairly consistent basis. Obviously, we have syringes because they were actually injecting.
Both users, both thieves, and both with parents who never thought this would happen.
I really had high hopes and did very well in school, and she had gotten a scholarship and she had started and going to college, and I thought she was on a road to a very productive life.
Until she wasn't. Cheryl Evans' daughter hit rock bottom, the same place many drug addicts wind up before they decide they want help. But in Kansas, when they do, it's anything but easy.
You're almost losing your mind because you've worked so hard to get to this point where they're accepting it, and then you're being told different things and not knowing what to do.
One thing stood in the way of treatment: methadone. No treatment center would take the addicts because they took too much of the drug meant to get addicts off heroin. I went to the source of that drug, the Matrix Clinic. The owner says methadone is regulated by the state, the feds, and the Drug Enforcement Administration.
And that's why we don't willy-nilly let somebody come in and here's all the methadone you need, walk with Jesus, have a good day. It doesn't work that way.
I went to Valley Hope, the treatment center that was saying no to addicts on methadone. The nursing staff says addicts have withdrawals for days without relief, and that means they get frustrated and leave.
We're not able to keep them comfortable enough in order to keep them in treatment.
Valley Hope can't force addicts to stay, so nurses say they don't.
We can only do so much.
Treatment centers saying no to methadone isn't the only obstacle in Kansas, according to this mother who co-chairs a support group for families of addicts.
Depending on the insurance, sometimes the insurance doesn't want to pay for inpatient. They want to pay for outpatient.
A problem the treatment centers face too.
The feedback that we get is that the patient doesn't meet medical necessity to stay at this level of care.
Then there's the timing issue.
First off, it is, you have to get an assessment, which can take a couple days. So after the assessment's done, it's finding a bed.
She says some other states have fast assessments and admittance, like Florida. But Kansas needs to start talking solutions so addicts can get help instead of getting locked up or getting high.
It's not just any one type of person. Anybody you come in contact with, you don't know.
There are people who want to help. Mays Police Detective Jeff Piper organized an intervention for these two addicts just because he wanted them to have a different ending to their story. But he says he can't do it alone.